We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Drop the mic with Jason Hunt.
No, you are good to go. And so have you been doing a lot of podcasting?
Yeah, funny enough, I actually in a previous life was really interested in Web3 and had a podcast of my own called Web 2.5 that was about real world use cases for Web3 technology. So I've had my own show. I've been on other folks' show. And now as part of my agency, Beers with Friends, we do a video series called CMO Pub Quiz. So this mic is coming in handy.
Yeah. So tell me about that. When you started how long ago was that when you started that podcast?
But CMO Pub Quiz?
Yeah.
So Beers with Friends is a very young agency, and we only started CMO Pub Quiz a couple of months ago. I'm a longtime brand side marketer, so I have a deep network of CMOs and marketing friends, and wanted to start something that just enabled quick conversation, easy layup questions, and sort of a pub-like atmosphere. So no long form content, just short, quick, hot takes. And we've just been doing it. It's been super casual, and it's a great way to chat with folks I know and a great way to meet other CMOs that I don't.
Well, that's the content that's working now. We're catering to the short attention spans, aren't we? To the likes of, and then, I'm a victim of it too. I am on TikTok and am addicted to TikTok, and an hour or two flies by and I'm like, what did I just do with my night? It's gone.
Yeah. And, me too. But I find it relaxing and enjoying, and it's a good way to stay plugged into what's going on. So no guilt for either of us.
But it's almost like it becomes, it becomes such an effort to kind of stay tuned in for any long form content now. I was trying to watch a half an hour YouTube video last night, which I was very interested in the topic, but I only got about 10 minutes through it because by that time I was bored. I was on to the next thing.
So just take breaks, take a snack break, and then, it'll take you a little longer, but you'll do it in short increments.
Healthy snack break.
Yes, healthy snack breaks. For sure.
Very good. So Dana, you have a huge background in marketing. You've worked with some really big brands. Maybe touch a bit on your history in terms of what kind of you can give credit to help you get to where you are today with Beer with Friends.
Yeah. And just so you know, in case you want to edit that part, so the agency is called Beers with Friends. So it's plural because everybody needs more than
with friends.
Everybody needs more than one. So my career has really been following my curiosity and finding ways to apply my creativity, my love of connecting with people, my love of building community, my love of eliciting emotional response, and just apply that in so many different ways. My modern marketing career really started at Jet.com. I was an early hire at Jet, was there pre-launch, employee 68, I believe, and really learned marketing from this amazing early days team, and ran the retention marketing team, ran the brand marketing team, and was so grateful to be a part of the Jet community and the Jet story. And then ultimately we were acquired in a transaction by Walmart and got to go from scrappy venture-backed startup to the Fortune 1. And there I was asked to lead social media. And at the time, it was really helping to build Walmart's internal muscle into one that had strong social DNA, wanted to participate, advocating for the importance of social, gathering resources, building a team around that mission, and then just going out and executing between our national handles, our local handles, one for every store, our community management, and the millions of mentions a year on social, folks that talk about Walmart. And so, went from this really ambitious early stage, scrappy venture-backed company to this incredible, decades old brand, and but still helping to share that brand through new channels and evolve it into a more social forward brand. And then most recently, I went to Wonder, which is building the super app for mealtime, and founded by Mark Laurie, who's the entrepreneur behind Jet.com, and ran marketing there in our go-to-market launch in the earliest days. So I've had just the great fortune of being at small and big, but always ambitious companies, and really learned from those around me, and grateful to be a part of such talented teams.
What year were you working behind the scenes of Walmart social media?
2017 to 2019.
Got it. 2017 to 2019 was a much different landscape than it is today on the social side, for sure.
100%. And it was, that was around the time where, where everyone was sort of trying to figure out what their Wendy's was. And we actually went, the marketing leadership team, and then they asked me to come with them. We went down and traveled to Wendy's and really learned from the team. And it doesn't mean that the Wendy's playbook is right for everybody, but what that experience really taught me is you've got to figure out who you are as a brand and what you want to stand for, and then find the moments to show up and reinforce that. So it's not about, for Walmart, it's not about being, sassy or fresh or any of that. But something that I was really proud of is helping to lead the brand forward in defending the brand in social and standing up. So if someone's sort of dragging Walmart's name through the mud, well, why are you doing that? Like, we can be confident. We're a great brand. So really just building some of that muscle and the importance of participating and standing up.
What was it like developing like content themes for social media when you're at Walmart? Like, was there a game plan around that? Was it just really about pushing specific products? I mean, your goal at the end of the day was to get foot traffic, right?
Yes. And so at that time, it was off the heels of the Jet acquisition. So what was so interesting about that role was that it was a channel, but it was in service of both objectives, driving store traffic, but also driving e-com traffic, but also driving brand love and appreciation. And so a lot of the work that I led wasn't just about, what do we want to say today, tomorrow, and next week in social, but building the infrastructure and the systems and the process to constantly figure out what we want to be talking about. And how do we take organizational wide priorities? How do we take category specific priorities? How do we take social first priorities and pull those together? And a lot of the work that I led at Walmart has formed the foundation of Beers with Friends today, something that was really helpful that I worked on with my agency partners. One of whom is now my co-founder at Beers with Friends, was creating something we called franchises. And they were content franchises that you could drop any number of things into, but did a specific job. So imagine, instead of having, the nail polish brand manager and the cat litter brand manager and the pool toys brand manager all saying, feature me, feature me. Well, if we can create a franchise that can hold lots of different products, so a concept or a theme where we can feature and spotlight different products, great. Now I have a place where we've got a hot item of the week. We've got this thing that's going on rollback or what have you. I have a place to put it and I know how to treat it. And so building those social concepts that we could talk about products, we could talk about people, we could talk about different priorities, enabled us to work better with the organization and have a system for talking about whatever mattered most.
What a great playbook for any e-commerce brand out there to get so granular with their products and the ICPs behind the products, and to get that messaging that resonates best with the perfect person that's going to purchase that product. I don't think many e-commerce brands get that granular with it.
Yeah, I mean, when you're working at a brand with a large catalog, and there's limited marketing real estate, right? And so you've got to figure out a way to talk about what matters, and litigate all the different priorities. And so I think, thinking through what you're going to talk about, who gets to decide, at a macro level, helps get stakeholders bought into the system, so that on any given day, on any given post, everyone sort of knows why things are happening the way they are or where they are.
Were there any big crises that you had to navigate at Walmart through social that you can, put your stamp on it and be like, I'm proud of the way I handled that situation?
Well, yes, for sure. I think, but it's interesting. I think, something, this is an internal name, but something that we created is what I dubbed the octopus chart, which is a system for how do we categorize and route different social commentary, right? Everything from this is a basic community service message to, oh, this is a health and safety issue, to, oh my, there's a celebrity talking about us right now at a Walmart, and there's upside to that. Thing one was building a system to actually track it and categorize it and prioritize it. And if I was to have to pick out one thing I was particularly proud of, it wasn't a crisis so much as it was an opportunity. So when I was there, a young man named Mason Ramsey yodeled in a Walmart. And it went viral. He was super talented, and it started going everywhere. And, we decided to really jump on it, to rally the organization internally, and to put resources behind amplifying it and celebrating this really authentic, organic moment that had happened in our stores. So we threw him a concert at his hometown Walmart within a week of that happening. We flew down in this tiny plane, and my whole team took a picture in the aisle, right where Mason had yodeled, and we made posters, and we got an MC, and we had this amazing concert in a week. That concert also got mentioned on the Ellen show, who had Mason on her show. And it just proved that we could move quickly. We could exist at the pace of culture, because lots of great stuff happens in a Walmart. So I was really proud of that.
That's brilliant. That is so good that you turn the Yodel boy into like a brand ambassador overnight, because anytime anybody saw that Yodel, they thought Walmart. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And I still follow him on social today. People should continue to follow him. He's built a great career for himself, and I still feel very invested in his success.
Is he still yodeling?
Yes, and singing.
Good for him. He went all in on it.
Yeah.
Okay? And all birthed from that initiative. That is pretty cool. That's awesome. So after leaving the corporate world, Dana, tell me about the transition into entrepreneurship and starting your agency, because that's always a tough one to navigate, to take that leap from the corporate world, the security, to be like, I'm going to take a leap and start my own thing. Tell me a bit about that journey.
Yeah, so I would start with, I have always been entrepreneurial, and now that I'm, older, looking back, I come from a very entrepreneurial family. Grandparents, great grandparents, like we have entrepreneurial DNA. I started a nonprofit when I was in college. I started a clothing brand before I joined Jet. I started a newsletter in high school. Like I've constantly been a white space spotter and gap filler for most of my life and career. And even when I've been in big companies, it was very much about, finding white spaces, filling gaps, building things that didn't exist. Actually, an initiative I'm really proud of from jet.com is I worked with the Obama White House to respond to a call that they had about closing the diaper gap, and 1 in 3 families can't afford diapers. And because of our innovative pricing model and our innovative approach and our supplier network, I helped build an innovative diaper pack that brought costs down, and helped support organizations that work towards giving folks in need access to more diapers. So I've always been kind of a builder and creator in that way, even within large organizations. And so Beers with Friends is the current manifestation of that, based upon my experience working brand side all those years. No matter what company I was at, what stage I was at, what our funding situation was, the size of our business, the size of the team, I always experienced an ambition gap. Like I always wanted to do more than whatever resources were available: time, money, people. I think, a lot of people are driven, to do more, and always have to think about how to work within the constraints that they have. And so I felt that there was an opportunity to build an agency that was, building on marketer first insights. Most agency folks are not, originally from the brand side. They've grown up in agencies. So bring that expertise and lived experience to the table, and create something that was not an agency of record model, but really an agency on call model. And my belief is that modern marketing organizations, long gone are the days of 18-month lead time marketing calendars and having everything figured out and infinite budgets and big TV spend. Brands have to punch above their weight, do more with less, and move with agility. And so Beers with Friends is the answer to that, where we spin up an A+ team. We focus and work on one client at a time. You get access to brains and firepower that you don't have in-house that are the right people for the job, not just whoever's free at the agency. And we can tackle all different kinds of briefs. And so we're like creativity on tap, and the model can be used for all sorts of things, from campaign development, social ideas, a deck of cool stuff to do, a whole arsenal of out-of-home headlines. Like, you pick the breadth and depth, but Beers with Friends is there to deliver creativity on tap over and over.
I think it is so important to have a unique approach to agency in 2025, right? Like, it's like a lot of agencies, it's a saturated market. Everybody and their brother, sister, and cousin has some sort of a marketing agency, quote unquote. And it's important to have this kind of fresh approach. And it is a fresh approach that you bring to the table. And specifically speaking, I love the approach of the beer run and
Yes.
the beer run sprint revolution. Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, so a beer run is our name for a 5-day sprint. And it's based off of research that we did studying some of the best, well-known sprints, everything from Google Ventures sprints to Saturday Night Live, right? They run a sprint every week, and it's showtime on Saturday night. And, we pulled lessons from there and other places as well. And the idea is, if you get the right people around the table solving the right and a clear problem, you're focused, and you move quickly, and you put constraints around it, whether it's your budget or, in this case, time, it is incredible what you can accomplish and unlock. And so the beer run is our 5-day sprint process. You can buy one, and we can sprint for 5 days and crack a problem. You can stack them. And if we need to, solve a sequential series of briefs, we can do that. And we also have clients like Dig In, who hire us on the regular. They bought a 6-pack, and every quarter we work on developing a seasonal campaign for each of their menu launches. And they know they've reoriented their staffing needs and their interagency team around this process every quarter. So it's for ambitious marketers trying to punch above their weight, particularly at challenger brands. We're a really great solution. And I'll just add to that, we're some people's big agency and we're some people's small agency, and the process is designed to handle both, and we're really enjoying it.
So if can you give a tangible example, another example of a sprint that you would do, and maybe get a little specific in terms of what the challenge was, what you had to overcome, and the deliverables that you actually activated on?
Sure. So I'll start by saying the deliverables are different by sprint, and the sprint outputs something we call a blueprint. If you're ready for a lot of beer metaphors, you've come to the right place.
Love it.
But the client is in complete control. It could be a breadth of things. It could be very deep. So it's designed to answer one problem or one question and output this blueprint with it. So I'll go back. Maybe I think one of the best illustrative case studies is actually one that we did for the first beer run that we did for Dig. And the brief was, we're launching our fall menu. We want to build off of a more culturally relevant insight than just talking about the new food, right? Like, what's a wrapper that we can put around it? And in particular, we'd like to drive awareness around our dinner occasion. For those that know Dig In, it started in 2011. It was very popular for hot food for lunch, right? And they really said, we want to focus on the great new food that we have, but also how do we drive awareness around the dinner occasion? So we spent Monday of it turning the business problem into a consumer-oriented problem. So it's one thing to say, how do we sell more dinner, which is generally how a marketer or a business person might say that's the objective. And we say, well, what's a consumer trying to do in their day? And how can we, what's the barrier and how can we disrupt that? And so we spend the day thinking about a whole different set of barriers. We put a bunch in front of the client. And at the end of the day, we landed on a barrier about, like, dinner's a drag, right? Like, and particularly midweek dinner, figuring out what midweek dinner is a drag. And so we said, how might we make Dig In a worthy punctuation to the midweek day? And once we landed on that, we go through a process where we, one, look at inspiration. So what does good look like in trying to solve this problem, whether it's in the QSR industry or another industry? And then what are as many thought starters we can come up with to solve that problem. How could we make dinner a worthy punctuation to the day for Dig? Like, what's a campaign line that we could come up with? And what's really unique about our model is midweek, we actually show the client the raw material. So we don't go away, come back with 3 perfect things, make the client choose or Frankenstein, and then end up in round of revisions land, right? Which is usually how scopes work. We actually show 20, 30, however many we need thought starters, and say, here's a Post-it note. We don't know what that idea is. Here's a really big idea. This one seems great, but might just be an email subject line. It's not big enough, right? And we sift through all this stuff, and we have a tissue session side by side with the client and come out of it, in this case, choosing a campaign. And it was actually a campaign line that the client chose, dinner deserves dinner. And it was making a point that in this world where everyone's having girl dinner and we're disrespecting dinner. We're not giving it the respect that it deserves. And if you're dipping baby carrots in it, it's not dinner. And if you're sucking it out of a straw, it's not dinner. And so it was like, let's have dinner for dinner. Like, Dig is dinner for dinner. And so it became a rallying cry, not only in the marketing messaging, but it pushed the culinary team to think about how to push the actual dinner offering to be more dinner. Like, how might we plate it differently and present it differently to be more dinner? And then we spend the back half of the week applying this concept to whatever channels the client wants us to think about: CTV, out of home, social, email, like whatever it is. We don't spend a minute applying it to something the client's not going to do or didn't want us to do. And at the end of the week, they have a blueprint of this is what dinner deserves dinner looks like. And here's how it comes to life across, the channels, your in-store assets, whatever you have. And clients have a lot of flexibility. They have great executional resources, and they tear the pages out of the deck and they go make it, or they ask us to help them make stuff too. So it's a really flexible model designed to solve a lot of challenges. But I think that's a great case study in client agency partnership, turning a business insight into a consumer-driven insight, pushing the organization. So it's not just impacting marketing, but it's impacting, in this case, product or culinary. And so I'm really proud of that process. And Dig In is a wonderful brand and a wonderful client. And I think Jessica Serrano is an extremely talented marketer, and we're so grateful to work with her.
It's such a very interesting model, right? I mean, when I first heard about that model, it didn't sound like, in my head, where my head goes, I'm like, well, how does the business get that recurring business if it's just a 5-day sprint and that's the beginning of end of it? But it's not, because from that initial campaign, you get so much data from the ads that you're running to be able to feed the product itself to become improved. Like that example there with Dig In, I'm sure there was feedback you gave them based on what you see on the performance of the ads to be like, hey, this dish is actually something you should serve more because the engagement, social media is telling us it's awesome. Right?
Yeah, well, and truly, the brand brings a lot of those insights. So each time we do this every quarter, the brand is saying, this is what worked well, this is what didn't work well. Here's where we want to double down. Here's where we want to pull back. And so it's a not a multiplayer game, but it's a our best clients are one where there's a recurring need, either a continuous product launch cycle where we can plug in and be a partner for that. It could be a recurring need to play offense in social media. Hey, every month we want new stuff to try, new shots on goal to take, new conversations we want to be a part of. So a lot of, or we've actually found success partnering with one brand in a multi-brand portfolio. And that's led to conversations of, oh my gosh, this was so great. Can we do this for this other brand that we own, and this other brand that we own, and this other brand that we own? So we're finding there's people are loving the process, and it's driving repeat business.
Talking about the systems that you've developed and the SOPs for developing these type of campaigns, these sprints, and what kind of a capacity is AI involved in the process now?
Oh, I love this question. So I had a boss years ago. We were having coffee, and she said, "Well, you're a systems thinker." And I'm like, "What does this mean?" And then I went and studied systems thinking. I was like, "I'm definitely a systems thinker," and I'm constantly thinking about the role of, I guess I would say, automation in general, and tools in general, of which AI is a part. Like I spent a summer before business school building out a Salesforce instance on my own just to try to create a system. Like I love building scalable system. So I find a lot of joy in that. I think that the automation on the operation side is where there's the biggest gains for us, which, our beer run is it's like a Broadway show that goes, it goes on, and there's repeatable processes from sending out the legal docs, which, our process is so unique. We have our own, and that's a really important piece is that clients work with our documentation. Calendar invites, what else? Briefs, set up access to Slack. We jam in Slack with our clients. And so automating some of those processes, first you have to build the process and know what it is, and then you can apply automation on top of it. So we're just constantly documenting and thinking about our systems, and, where automation makes sense, we'll do that. But there's a lot of human touch in our process, and we think that's really important.
What are some of the specific tools that have become lifesavers for you with regards to AI?
Oh my gosh. I try everything as best I can. So I try ChatGPT, I play with Gemini, I play with Claude, Perplexity, constantly working through, what is each one's best noble purpose. I love Granola AI for meeting notes. I found it to be extremely useful in taking meeting notes in a way where you don't have 10 AI bots coming into a one call. I love Whisper or Whisperflow. I personally love, I find voice easier than typing. And so I find that when I'm trying to, I've got a lot of thoughts in my head or trying to capture stuff down, I find that to be really effective. And actually the last tool I would say, I don't know that it has so much to do with AI, but it's a tool called Butter, and it's a video conferencing tool. And it's a competitor to a Zoom or a Google Meet, or Teams, if that's how you roll. And what I love about it is that it's got all the basic video conferencing capabilities, but it peaks on the branding side and the experience side. So for instance, we make a Butter room for each one of our clients, and you can brand it with assets from the brand. And so it feels like you're stepping into a brand world when you're working on a project. 2, they have this great waiting room experience. So before you're let in, you can pick music to play, and you can pick the background music. And the number one thing when we talk to prospects, by now clients know about Butter and they're all jamming. When we talk to prospects, they're like, that was such a unique experience. I can already tell that you guys think differently. And that is worth everything, because if you don't consistently show up in the way that you deliver work in all the other non-work parts, people aren't going to know that you're any different. And you said before, it's a very fresh take. We called it Beers with Friends. And I swear to you, we didn't start with a brand house this way, but people started saying to us, this is really refreshing. I said, oh my gosh, it's like we engineered a beverage brand, and at the top of the house, it's, a refreshing take on the agency model. But that's truly what people say to us the most often, because we've lived that in every touch point that we have with prospects and clients.
I think that is so important to nail that and be so spot on, is that when they're having the experience with Beers with Friends, it's like they're having this experience, but they can expect that experience to be replicated for their own brand, right? And the fact that you went diving all in using platform like Butter, because that is that branding experience. Like for us, for our agency, we're really invested in the back end technical side of like paid advertising, SEO, right? So when it comes to those, it's like, well, hey, look, Google SEO agencies in Toronto or digital marketing agencies Toronto, we're at number 1 on a Google search. You can see our Google ads there. Look at our page transparency to see all the ads are running, right? Yep. And that's the kind of experience that our clients and prospects can expect as well. And I think it's so important that you are actually nailing that. And there's thought is put into it. It's not just willy-nilly, hey, let's just try this. It's like you've given some thought to it.
100%. And we were very intentional. And I think, we started this. We started, and we didn't start with 10 initial seed clients and, the business was all there. We built the agency based on our experience and based on our track record. And when you're starting something new, you always have that cold start problem, which is how do you communicate and market the work before you have work. And, a lot of people leverage past case studies and past work. And we felt like, we certainly talk about those and we're proud of those, but we didn't want to put them at on the front shingle, because those were things we did in past lives and with other teams and all of that. And so we made a very conscious decision to create the things that we needed to create as a business to feel like the type of work a client would get. So we built our website on Shopify with beer runs as product SKUs named for use cases that clients might have. And you can check one out on our website. There's no price tag to it. And we use Klaviyo for our email software where you can pipe in beer runs as product SKUs. And that's really different from a traditional agency website of, who we are, our work, what we do, why we're here. And so we just started making things feel like work early on before we had work to show people and not tell people, how we were different. We bought a phone number, 640 beer run. And, we're like, yeah, we have a hotline, just stuff like that to get people to understand that we're different, we're refreshing, and they can trust us with their brand to get out that type of work.
Do you find with clients when you're doing any sort of rebranding, this is one thing, right? Things get stale or they think they get stale. And in some cases, people think they need a rebrand, but they don't need a rebrand. They just need to deploy patience with the rebrand. And I think because you went so, you took a big risk by taking this approach because it is very unique. Did you have any doubt along the journey, or maybe there's some examples of clients you've worked with where they just need to deploy patience when they launch that rebrand?
Yeah, I think, I don't know if it's doubt so much as I think your natural state as a marketer is to say we appeal to everybody. Anyone could hire us. We, from the biggest of brands to the smallest of brands. And learning to say no, learning to let, lost business go, learning to accept that not everyone is an ideal client is part of the journey. And I think, I don't think about it as, failure or disappointment, but it's really about focusing and finding those initial customers who really love you. And I think we've been very successful at doing that, and now have a much clearer target of who's hiring us, why they're hiring us, when they're hiring us, and being okay with the fact that this model isn't right for everyone. We built this to be a meet me halfway experience. It works if the client shows up, has a clear brief, knows what they want to come out of it, is willing to have their team available to participate at the pre-aligned milestones, has the stakeholders and decision makers embedded in the process, not somewhere else that needs to then get sold into at another process. And so it's really a partnership. We share what we bring to the table. We're clear with clients on what they bring to the table, and now everyone's invested, and it makes for a great client engagement. And it doesn't work for everybody, and that's completely okay.
Yeah, definitely. I find even just when we deployed, we didn't. It wasn't even a huge rebrand. We changed color from gold to yellow a few years ago, a couple years ago actually, and we just noticed we're like, wow, we're getting less leads now. Did we just and we're getting bad leads too. We thought we cheapened our service by going from gold to yellow. It's just one of these small things that I think sometimes when you take that risk, there's a lot of thought that goes into this stuff. And you're more embedded in this space than I am for sure. But even those little minute details can have a big impact on the output, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think we developed a framework around this that is called Brand in a Can, which helps to frame how you get consumers to think about your brand in the way that you want them to, right? Your brand is not what you say about yourself. It's what people say about you when you're not in the room. And it starts with your internal ingredients. So think about a beer can. It's the ingredients inside, your mission, your vision, your values, who you are. It's then how you express that to the outside world. So what's on the can? What are the assets and the actions that you're taking that are hopefully consistent with those internal ingredients? And if you do those things well, you leave an impression. And so it's not so much as, what color is it, but it's really about thinking backwards from, well, what's the impression that I want to leave? Is it about being fast? Is it about being quantitative? Is it about being accurate? Is it about being service oriented? And those micro decisions may shift impression against what you're hoping to leave as a lasting takeaway. And so, when you make decisions that are intentional, like, hey, if we shift these colors, it's really conveying what we think, consumers want and the impression that we want to leave. That makes a lot of sense. If you switch stuff without really intention for what impression you want to leave, and if that change helps, strengthen that impression or detract from it, then it's just changes for change's sake. So, it really comes down to, who are you? What matters to you? What are the ingredients? How are you going to live those out in the outside world? And are you thinking at the end of the day about the impression you want to leave? And that's how you build an intentional brand.
Okay, let's fast forward into the future now. All right, and talking about the agency on-call model, right? How do you see that? How do you see that fitting into the future? With the rapid pace AI is becoming a part of our everyday lives. Looking and I used to ask this question, say, look like 3 years out. You can't look that far anymore. It's got to be like
3 minutes.
Like, yeah, right. Like realistically, can you predict like a year out?
Yeah. So it's funny because my co-founder James and I always have a tough time with the hot takes business. And I think it's really what drove us to start Beers with Friends in the first place, is that you can't really know what's coming. So you better build partners and tools and systems that are agile and helping you deal with it. So I think that's very much behind the Beers with Friends approach, which is, this thing could come out of nowhere on social. Some celebrity might use you and it skyrockets the conversation about your brand, right? A new partnership comes into play and you've never thought about what are all the different ways that you could activate against it. The new CEO comes in and has all these ideas that now you need to vet and figure out. You go to Cannes and learn something that you weren't expecting to learn, or you tried a new tool that you'd never tried before and your thinking shifts. The only way to win at the hot takes game is to have a system set up for agility to handle it, when new things come into focus. And so I think we try to stay out of the, predicting the future game, and you better have partners by your side that can handle it, whatever comes your way.
And be nimble.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, it's tough in a day like today to be so proactive, right? And you also don't want to suffer from bright, shiny object syndrome either, right?
Yeah,
everything.
Yeah, I think the best thing, at the end of the day, brands are comprised of people. And so, if I was to give advice to people working within brands, I would say just being curious is the best thing you can be right now. I think putting your head in the sand, digging your heels in and not trying new things or being open to what's coming is a recipe for failure. I think if you can be curious, try new things, ask around, be open, I think that's the best thing that you can do until, you've decided this is a path I want to commit to, or this is, we're going to change our tool stack, or we're going to reframe how we hire folks. Everyone there's so much interesting stuff that's going on right now. I just came back from Cannes, and my big takeaway was really, we're in an era of democratizing access to creativity. It is no longer the case where, agencies are the only ones with the answers, and you've got to hire them and pay them a lot of money and wait a long time and get stuff delivered to you on a platter. Like, that's just not the way that it works anymore. People have tools at their fingertips, brand side, to do a lot of the stuff themselves. And there's a lot of independent agencies like ours and others that are coming up with innovative new ways to partner with teams. And I think the democratization of creativity means, everyone has access to the tools, but you still have to be a dreamer and be a creative to figure out how to use them. And so, I just encourage everyone to experiment, continue to surround yourself with people who've done this before, who know what they're doing, who bring that expertise, think outside the box and bring fresh perspective in so you don't miss anything. And this is such a fun time to be alive. We should all enjoy it.
Definitely. Cannes, great city. I was there for a conference years ago. Fantastic facility there. And that's Cannes, France.
Yes.
Right. And what was the event you were attending?
Oh, the Cannes Lions Festival of Creativity.
Yes. I was inundated with their marketing campaigns over the last 6 months. Yeah.
Yes.
Was it a good event?
It was great. I mean, it was, it's certainly the awards for premier, best in class creative. So I really enjoyed going to the basement of the Palais, the big, building and seeing some of the work that's there. It's very inspiring. We also hosted, as you'd expect, very on brand. We hosted a happy hour with some of our other favorite agency partners. So that was fun. And I think what's great about it is just the serendipity that happens. I think everyone there is equally as sweaty, equally as curious, and you can't replace those serendipitous connections, when you're at a conference like that. So I found it very worth it, and really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Dana, this has been an awesome conversation. Learned a lot from you. If our audience has any questions for you, how can they get in touch?
Sure. So you can visit Beers with Friends at bwfagency.com. We're also pretty active on LinkedIn as an agency. And then I'm just Dana Hork, Hork, and LinkedIn is where you can find me as well.
Awesome. Dana, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you, podcast listener, for checking out that episode of Drop the Mic. If you like that episode, I would love it if you went on over to your podcast platform and left us a 5-star review. And if you don't want to miss an upcoming episode of Drop the Mic, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.